This video is going to be a demonstration of the dimensioning rules applied to a drawing. So we have a drawing here that has some isometric dimensions. We're going to place the dimensions on the appropriate views in this drawing, and I'm going to explain why they belong there as I go. I'm going to use the rules from the Technical Graphics Standards Manual as a reference, and I have set up already a metric dimension style with a proper diameter and radial dimensions, child dimension style variation. And you can look up this dimension style in the Technical Graphics Standards Manual to set one up properly. Alright, to start, we never start with overall dimensions. So I'm going to start with the dimensions for the hole here, which is going to be diameter of 12, then 27. And we can loosely apply 48 to that same object as well. But it's also dimensioning the center of the notch, so we can put that one in a number of places. So I'm going to use the 12 and the 27 and figure out where those belong, where that object shows up in its true shape. The only place I can see that in its true shape is here in the front view. So using the dim diameter command, we can place the diameter dimension, and I want to place it in between views whenever possible. So I'm going to place that dimension there for now. I might end up having to move it. It will depend on if it gets in the way of anything else. And then I want to add the linear dimension, dim linear, from the bottom to the endpoint of the inside crosshairs of the center mark. This will ensure that your center mark symbol will still look like a center mark. Now I want to track off of this edge. The spacing for our first dimension has to be a minimal distance of 10 millimeters from the object. So I just track off of that and put in 10 millimeters. Now what happened is it tracked off of here 10 millimeters instead. So I'm just going to pull this back out just like that, and then grip it again and drag again and type in 10, and that should give me 10 millimeters. The range is 10 to 12 millimeters. So I manually have to put that in. So now I've placed those two dimensions. I'm going to go back to the isometric, and I'm going to cross them out. Alright, the next dimension is this R17. That's also should go in the same view. That's the same radius that we're seeing here. So we're going to type in DRA and place that radius. So that takes care of that. I'm going to move on to the notch next. This R7 and the depth of 15 and the 48 all go with that notch. Where I see that notch in its true shape is in the top view. So I'm going to add 48, being careful to go to the end point of the inside crosshairs. I'm going to track off of this edge and put in a distance of 10. Using DRA, place the radius of 7 in here, and I'm going to put it right about here. And I'll show you how you can select that dimension, because I've got the arrow approximately pointing where I want it to. So I'm going to select that dimension, right click and go into Properties, and I want to get that to Move Text, Add Leader. So under the Fit tab I can hit it, Move Text and Add Leader. If it doesn't go where you want, see if you can just make an adjustment to pull that dimension into a different location. And I actually don't mind it there, so I'm going to put it there instead. Alright, lastly we need to add the depth of 15. So I'm going to use dim linear and go from here to here and track off of here 10 millimeters. This is one of those examples where you could make the argument that the extension line for this is a little bit long, and it wouldn't really clutter the view too much to put the dimension right on the object. That's kind of the same reason why I chose to put this dimension here. I could put it up here somewhere, but I put it up there. It seems to be kind of away from all the other dimensions that I'm going to be having, and I want to look for a dimension for that radius somewhere near where that feature is. So I would actually accept the argument of you putting it here in this scenario, or out where I had it, the 10 millimeters past the object edge. So that takes care of that dimension this one, and that one. So what we have left now is the 12, the 10 for inside dimensions. So the most logical place for us to put the 12 would be here because it's where it shows up in its true shape. But we also have this 27 here. What you have to ask yourself is this a related dimension? Do we need to have the 12 and the 27 together for any reason? And I don't think we do. So I'm going to click here to put in the dimension of 12 and track out 10. Put in dimension of 10 to track out 10. And that takes care of those two dimensions. Now we're only left with the overall dimensions of 36 and 96. So the overall dimension of 36, you have a choice to put it with the 10 or group it with the 15. And I'm going to group it with the 10 because I like that I can subtract 10 and figure out what that resulting dimension is. So using dim baseline, DBA, I'm going to snap to this point to put in the overall of 36. The overall length really can only go here. It doesn't belong here because there's no related dimensions that it should go with. But the 48 along with the overall dimension of 96 makes it clear that this notch and this hole are centered. So we're going to use DBA again. Hit enter to select the 48 so that we can place that dim baseline dimension to the outside. Right now I've got all the dimensions placed, but I wouldn't mind having an overall dimension for height as a reference dimension. And I can either put that on this view or this view. I'm going to place it with this view here in the 12. So I'm going to put in DBA, hit enter, select the extension line for the 12 and place this dimension here. But that has to be a reference dimension. So I'm going to edit that dimension and put in parentheses the dimension that shows up as 44. The reason that's a reference dimension is I can add up the 17 plus the 27 to get that value of 44, and a tolerance should not be applied to that dimension. We don't necessarily have to place that dimension, it's optional, but it's kind of useful to have as a reference. So that's how you go through and place the dimensions one by one, starting with the ones that are for specific parts that you can figure out where they show up in the true shape. And then it becomes a little bit easier to figure out where the rest of the dimensions belong. Notice that I also made sure my dimensions stayed between views whenever possible.